Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about Revenue Cloud Billing. We're going to talk about what is Revenue Cloud Billing, and then we're going to go through a demo and setup of the solution. All right, what is Revenue Cloud Billing? It's an invoice management solution. It's going to come part of the Revenue Cloud solution as of Winter 25. It supports multiple legal entities, lets you connect the tax engine, lets you automatically convert negative invoice lines to credit memos, apply credits to invoices. All right, so what I want to do today with you is we'll go through the different steps that we need to take to activate billing, all the setup of the data that needs to be built in there, the flows for billing schedule creation, and finally generating invoices. So we're going to go through those setup steps directly in Salesforce. All right, let's jump into Salesforce. All right, the first thing we're going to want to review is we want to make sure that the correct permission sets have been assigned to our user. So as the admin here, we're going to want to make sure we've got the billing admin permission set assigned. We also need to make sure we have the data pipelines base user permission set because we need to enable data pipelines for the invoice creation to work from billing batches. Back to your user, the other thing you want to make sure is you've got the permission set license for the billing. All right, so if we review our permission set licenses, we see that we have the billing user already assigned. So if you don't, make sure you assign that to your user. All right, once you make sure you've got all the correct permissions on your user, we're going to go in and enable data pipelines and setup. So from setup, look for data pipelines and then it getting started. And then from the data pipeline option, make sure you enable data pipelines. All right, so once data pipeline is enabled, we can go back to the setup search. And now we want to look for billing to go in and enable billing. So go to billing settings. Billing is currently off in that environment. Make sure you turn it on. All right, we get an error message, but we do have the billing admin permission set. So once billing has been turned on, there's a couple billing default values that we're going to need to set. We can't set them right now because that data isn't created. So make sure you go in and refresh. We're going to get new options within the billing menu under the setup. So now we've got a guided setup option on the left-hand side that you can see. So if we expand this, we'll go in and just follow the steps that are available in there. Make sure we create all the setup data. All right, so into step one, make sure you've got the billing user and permissions. We've reviewed that already, so that's good to go. We can skip that step. We'll move on to step two for the configuration of billing rules. The first thing to do is we're going to need to create our legal entity. So that's it, create legal entity. It's going to open up in a new tab. We don't have any legal entities yet, obviously, so we're going to create a new one. Let's call it demo legal entity. Give the same company name, and you can give it a fictitious address for now. And make sure you set it to active. Hit save. All right, so our legal entity is created. Let's go back to our guided setup. Now we need to create a billing policy. Again, this is going to open up in a separate tab. Let's hit new. All right, so let's create our first billing policy. Status is going to be draft initially, billing treatment selection. Let's set this to manual. Default billing treatment. We haven't created one yet. So we just save with this value empty and now go back to our setup. We're going to go in and create our billing treatment now. All right, so first create your billing treatment. Again, give it any name that's relevant to your company. The billing policy, we can select the billing policy we just created. Legal entity as well, we're going to select what we just created for a legal entity. Status initially is going to be draft. We're going to need to create billing treatment items before we can set this to active and exclude from billing. No, we want this billing treatment to bill. Hit save. All right, now that you've got your billing treatment, let's go to related, and we're going to want to create our billing treatment item. Hit new. So again, we'll give it a very generic name for this demo, but obviously give it anything that's relevant for your business. So billing treatment item, status, leave it to draft for now. Zero amount behavior. You don't have any other options, so we'll leave it to create invoice, processing order. Let's set it to 10. Type is going to be percentage. So we want to bill 100% of what has to be billed. So a couple different options here, right? So could be a flat amount, could be the remainder of what's on there, or percentage. So we'll use this to just invoice the full amount that's remaining on our billing schedule. Billing type is going to be advanced for this. sequencing, leave it to manual and control our billing schedule group. That's fine. Let's hit save. All right, so our billing treatment item is created. Let's now set it to active. Now we can go back to our billing treatment, and now we can activate the billing treatment now that it's got a billing treatment item. And then once your billing treatment itself is active, you can go back up to the billing policy and now set your default billing treatment and activate your billing policy. Save. All right, so we've got billing policy and treatment. Let's go back to our guided setup. Next step is to activate the billing records, which we've done already, and select the default billing treatment on our billing setup. Now that this is created, now that we've created the legal entity billing treatment, we can actually go in and fill in the values on our billing settings page that we couldn't before. So let's first add our context definition. So just use the standard billing context definition and the order entities mapping. And then the billing defaults, you're going to select your legal entity that you've created, the billing treatment you created, and nothing else to change. For now, we can come back for the tax treatment. Let's head back to our guided setup and let's go to tax configurations. All right, so as far as this demo is considered, we're not going to configure a tax engine. We're not going to create any integration, but we still need to create our tax policy. So let's go into our step 2 of the tax configuration, open up the create tax policy tab, and we're going to create our tax policy. All right, again, let's just simply give it a name, tax policy. Status is going to be draft initially. Treatment selection based on the legal entity. Default tax treatment, same as with the billing policy. We're going to come back to this afterwards. So back to our guided setup. Let's go to create tax treatment. All right, we're going to create our tax treatment. No tax engine to set up. Legal entity, we're going to select our legal entity. Tax policy that we've just created. Any product code that you need to tag this to if required, and then the status we'll set to active. All right, so our tax treatment is created and active. Now let's go back to our tax policy. We'll set our default tax treatment to the tax treatment we just created, and now we can set our status to active. And we can save. Let's head back to the guided setup. So we've gone through all the steps for the tax policies, and now step 3, we can go to invoice configurations. Now the only thing remaining there is to create invoice schedulers, which we'll have to go through a couple other steps before we can actually do this. All right, so once you've made it this far, now you need to create a payment term for your environment. So in the menu, not the setup menu, the regular menu, you're going to look for payment terms. From payment terms, we're going to create a new one. So again, give it a simple name. Let's call it default payment term. We cannot set it to default yet. Let's hit save. Under related, we're going to create the payment term items. Let's set it to period based. Set the payment type print to standard. Period unit is going to be days. Period is going to be 30 days, right? So that would be net 30. Hit save. And now that you've got a payment term item, you can go back to your payment term itself. You can set the status to active and set it to default. There you go. You've got your payment term set up. All right, so now we've got all the base configuration completed for billing under Revenue Cloud. Now, what we want to make sure we've got is we need a flow to create billing schedules. So there is a standard template that we're going to go in, look at, and activate under a new name. And the other thing is we'll take a look at the order and order product layout to make sure that they've got the fields and related lists that we need. All right, so first let's go into flows and have a look. So we'll go to setup, search for flows, and under flows, you should have a template for billing schedules. All right, so it's called order to billing schedule flow. It's a template. We'll open this one up. And nothing to modify in our use case. Obviously, the trigger for schedule creation could be anything that you set it to. By default, it's going to be that the status of the order is equal to active, which is fine for our use case. So we're going to save this as a new flow. Let's call it order to billing schedule. Once you've got your name, you can save it. And now we want to make sure we set it to active, activate your flow. All right, that's good. Now the other thing we're going to want to go back to setup for is we want to review the page layout of both order and order product. Let's have a look at order first. Let's have a look at our page layout. We want to make sure we add to our related list the billing schedules because they're not on there by default. All right, that's enough. Yes. And then let's have a look at order product. So on your page layout for the order product, again, under related list, let's add billing schedules because you're going to have schedules for specific products. The other thing we want to make sure we have under fields on there is the legal entity, the billing treatment, and finally the tax treatment. So those are going to be required for billing on your order product. They're not going to autofill in this environment because we don't have any automation to set those values. Obviously, that's something that you would typically set up. Now we're going to go in and set those up manually in our use case. All right, so now we really have gone through all the setup steps that we need for this basic billing deployment. Now we want to go to our quote. From the quote, we're going to create our order. And from there, we're going to look at what happens with billing. So let's go back to our quote. All right, so on this quote, I've got three products. I've got a one-time product, a yearly billing product, and then a monthly, which I've extended to 12 months. So my quote is ready to go this way. I already have my account tagged on it. We're good to go. So I can go in and create the order. And then once the order is created, we'll go over there. There's a couple required field on your orders that you're going to want to make sure are filled in. All right, so we've got our order products. If we head over to details, a couple of things we want to make sure if we want to activate our order, we need to have an active contract on it. So that's a contract that was already created and active on there. We need to have a bill to contact added to our order as well. So I've got a contact created, I'll add this on there. You also need a billing and a shipping address. So again, let's fill this in. Again, this is normally something that would be automated, right? And pulled from the account or the billing account, whatever it is. In our use case, that's fine for now. And we're not connected to a billing engine, so there's not going to be any address validation. All right, so just go in, fill in all those details. And once that's set up, we can hit save. Now we're going to want to have a look at our tree order products. And we're going to want to make sure we've got legal entity, billing treatment, and tax treatment. So let's go in and add everything that we've created earlier for this demo. So our default legal entity, default billing treatment, and tax treatment. So hit save on all of those. All right, and now once that's done, we can add back to our order. Make sure to refresh prices because now that you've done an update on your order product, it wants you to refresh the pricing. All right, and now once the prices are refreshed, we can actually go in and activate our order. Let's set this to active. And because our flow is activated for billing schedule, this is going to launch the job for billing schedule created. So creation rather. If we head on over to our related list, now we've got billing schedules created. So we've got a billing schedule for our order product on this, right? So the different order products that we had set up. Billing date is on there. We have the quantity, the total amount that's being billed for the three different order products that we've got set up. All right, so the order products are created. Now what we want to be able to do is create our invoice from this from those billing schedules. So if you want to get that created, we'll head on over to billing batch schedulers. From that tab, you're going to create a new invoice scheduler. All right, now you can give that scheduler any name you want. Want to make sure you set it to active. Now the scheduler can be set up a couple different ways. Can be set up on a monthly basis, a weekly basis, on a daily basis if you want it to rerun every day. Now, in our use case, we're only going to run it once to generate the invoices that are available to generate right away. We want it to run today, and that's going to be fairly similar to what we had in Salesforce Billing for those that are familiar with this. And we want it to run right now, which is going to be 9:04 p.m. Set that date. We don't want to post the invoices right away. Target date is going to be set it to the 3rd because that's what's on our billing schedule. Set the invoice days to the 1st. Then next, we want to grab all billing batches, all charge types, and we don't want to segregate by legal entity or customer, so we can go ahead and hit schedule. Now, all we were waiting for is to hit our starting time of 9:04. Once that's it, we're going to go under related and we'll have an invoice batch run created for this. If we go under the invoice billing criteria tab, we can see all the criteria that we set up when we were creating that invoice scheduler. All right, it is 9:04 now, so let's head on over to the related tab. We've got our invoice batch set up, created. All right, it is 9:04 now, so let's head on over to our related tab. The invoice batch is created. Let's click through on it. All right, so the invoice batch number is created from our invoice batch scheduler. The status is set to started. Now it's going to take a couple minutes to run, so I'm going to wait until this completes and get back to it and show you the invoices that are getting created. But the summary is then going to be updated to reflect all the invoices, obviously only one in our use case for now, but that were created from this specific batch run. While this is running, you can actually see the data pipelines that are working in the background. If you go back to setup and go to data pipelines, from the data pipeline option in the setup menu, you can actually launch the data manager. And from here, you can see the different jobs that I've run for the billing schedules, billing schedule groups. I've run at 9:04 when we had scheduled our invoice scheduler. All right, again, so this is still running. So we'll just leave it a couple minutes and I'll be back with the invoices that are created from our scheduler. All right, so now that the invoice batch run has completed, as you can see on there, now the summary is updated with the total number of invoices generated, total number of matching billing schedule, total invoiced amount, as you can see on there. Then if we head to related, we'll see the invoice that got created from this, the status and draft. All right, so we've got our document number, first one, invoice date that we had set on our batch scheduler, due date. That's set 30 days later according to our payment term that we created earlier for our billing, total charges, and then if we had to relate it again, and we need to update the page layout of our invoice. All right, so let's do that now. Then on over to setup, make sure you update your invoice layout to show the invoice lines that are not showing currently. Let's go to related list, add your invoice lines. There we go. Let's hit save. All right, back to our invoice. Let's head to related again. Now we've got our invoice line. So we have our yearly product that invoiced entirely upfront. We've got our one-time product that also invoiced entirely. Then our monthly product, which invoiced for the first month, obviously, right? So it was a $1,200 line for the full year. So a month for $100 is what invoiced. And the rest of it is going to get caught as we move on and create more schedules in the upcoming months. All right, and then once you've confirmed all the details are correct on this, as you could see, we could have posted this as soon as it was created from our batch scheduler, but if we haven't, we can go in and post our draft invoice. It's going to get refreshed, and now our status is posted. All right, so we've gone through the setup for Revenue Cloud Billing down to an invoice. As I said earlier, there are more features in there around credit notes and converting negative invoices and tax integrations, which we won't cover in today's video. But I hope this was an helpful intro, as usual. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, please reach out. Take a moment to subscribe if you want to follow for more, and have a good day.